Welcome to the Kline Realty Showcase. I'm Lindsay Shaver with Mountain Valley Homes team. If you see a home you like, give one of our offices a call. Thank you to our sponsors and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, my name is Derek Shadori. I'm with Kline Realty.
And I'm Veronica Amaro with F&M Mortgage.
Join us for our first time homebuyer seminar. We do it the first Friday of every month from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Kline Harrisonburg location. Don't forget to RSVP.
And we will cover the basics of first-time home buying from the real estate point of view and the mortgage process.
We hope to see you there.
our kids the best of everything, the best nutrition, the best education, and the best place to grow up. Even the air they breathe. Lennox strives to provide the best air quality for your family's home, free of indoor air pollutants.
At Landis Heating and Air Conditioning, they can install a Lennox customized comfort system in your home. Let Landis sweat the details so you can relax in comfort. Call my friends at Landis Heating and Air Conditioning today.
Lennox, innovation never felt so good.
Hi, I'm Karl Waizecker, Principal Broker at Kline Realty. Something's happening in the real estate industry right now that I think needs some explanation, what I call the new rules of real estate. What's happening is, because of a lawsuit and a nationwide settlement that involves some of the biggest franchises in the country and the National Association of Realtors and all of us who belong to the National Association of Realtors, there are some changes in the way that real estate agents operate. There are some changes in the way that buyers and sellers talk to their agents and negotiate agent fees. This will be a two-part video. In the first part, I think it's important for us to go back and talk about the history, how we got to this point, then a little bit about the lawsuit and the settlement. In our second part, I'll talk about the actual practice changes, what is different for agents, what's different for buyers, what's different for sellers. So if we go back to the beginning, before buyers had agents and before there was a multiple listing service where everybody shared their information, real estate agents typically sold their own listings. And that was it. If you came to me to see a house, I would show you my inventory of listings and then ask you which one of those did you want. If you wanted to see a house that was listed by somebody else, you'd need to go and work with that agent, and so on all around town until you found the house that you want. All the time that you were doing this, all those agents were working for the sellers, not for you. It was completely, at that point, a sales job, whereas now, with representation on both sides, it's very much a service job. So the next step in the process is brokers started to get together and say, you know what, it would probably be better for our sellers and for our buyers if everybody could see the whole market. So the multiple listing service was formed. Brokers in a similar geographic area would agree to submit all of their listing information to one central database so that all the buyers could see all the listings and make the best decision, and so the sellers could have their house marketed to all of the buyers in the market. It's a win-win for both of those folks. So in the early MLSs, in addition to sharing the information, the brokers agreed to share compensation as well, just as up until recently, folks have done in our MLSs. And here's how it would work. The listing agent would say, here's my firm's fee for listing and selling your house. We're going to do our very best to sell your house. But I'm going to share all this information with every other agent in the area, and if one of those folks sells it before I do, I'm going to offer half of what you're paying me, or a portion of what you're paying me, doesn't necessarily have to be half, to that other agent, to make sure they're incentivized and compensated for helping to sell your house, which is what you hired me to do. So that works out best for everybody. The thing was, in the early MLSs, all of the agents were working for the sellers still. They were considered to be sub-agents of the seller. So even if I was taking you around town, showing you all kinds of properties from all different firms, I was considered to be a sub-agent of those sellers, and therefore the seller was sharing the compensation with me. That became very confusing, understandably, for buyers, that the person they spend their whole time with and the person who they think is helping them negotiate actually was working for the other side. So in the 1980s, late 1980s, buyer agency, the concept of a buyer having an agent who looks out for their best interest, came into being. And by 1998, when I got into the business, it was becoming commonplace. There were no written agreements, but the concept was known. And that is the next step in this evolution, and how we got to the point where a listing firm is offering to share a portion of their earnings with a totally different firm if someone from that firm happens to sell the listing firm's home. In Virginia, there has been a law which requires agents to have a written agreement with their buyer clients since 2012. So we've been doing this far ahead of most of the rest of the country, to be honest with you. One difference, and we'll talk about the practice changes in the next video, but one slight difference for Virginia agents is the timing of when we need to get that agreement signed is a little bit different. In the lawsuit, the plaintiffs alleged that they didn't realize when they were signing their listing agreements that part of the fee they were paying to their firm was going to be paid to another firm, essentially the firm that was then negotiating against them. That was kind of the crux of the whole lawsuit. Another layer on top of that was the accusation that because the amount of compensation offered to cooperating firms was in the MLS, that gave buyer's agents the chance to pick and choose which listings they would show based on which ones made them the most money. That's a practice called steering. It is illegal, it is unethical, and frankly, in today's environment where every listing is on the internet, it's impossible because the buyers know all the listings anyway. There's no way an unethical agent could duck around one because it wasn't going to make them as much money as another. But the lawsuit went on for quite a while and the plaintiffs won. There was an award of $1.8 billion in damages, and because of the type of lawsuit it was, there's the possibility of that amount being tripled to over $5 billion, which is really a figure that's more than the entire industry is worth, so it's almost laughable, but that's where things ended up. So the National Association of Realtors and all of the big franchises which were involved in this particular lawsuit entered into various settlement agreements. The NAR agreed to pay $418 million to the fund which reimburses the plaintiffs, and then make some practice changes, changes in the way we use the MLS, and the way we communicate agent to agent, and the way we communicate with our buyer clients. Those practice changes are what we'll talk about in our next segment. Those practice changes took effect August 17th of this year, so we're fresh into it, and we're all kind of learning our way. If you have questions about any of this or would like some more information, I'll be happy to chat with you. Just shoot me an email at info@klinemay.com and we'll start a conversation. Thanks. Hi, I'm Karl Waizecker, Principal Broker at Kline Realty. Thanks for joining me for another Q&A with Kline. And stay tuned, later in this episode we'll have a special guest. So our topic today is a continuation of the new rules of real estate. Last time we talked about what changes a seller might notice. Today we're going to talk about what changes a buyer might notice. And the biggest change is a buyer will now be required to sign a written agreement with their agent before they see a property if that agent is acting for them. And what I mean by that is if you go to an open house where there's an agent there representing the seller, you don't have to sign a buyer's agreement to walk in. Similarly, if you call an agent or a firm and ask to see one of their own listings, in that case they don't know you at all, they're representing the seller, and they're going to show you the house from the perspective of representing the seller. However, if you want to see a property that's listed by a different firm, or if you get past that initial showing and you get into more substantive discussions with the agent, then you'll be required to sign that agreement as well. And all that agreement does is reduces your relationship to writing. So everybody knows who's paying whom, what the agent's jobs and duties are, and that type of thing. This is a nationwide requirement now, and Virginia is one of the few states which has been using buyer's agreements for the past several years. Virginia was actually the very first state to make buyer's agreements mandatory, and that happened in 2012. The rule in Virginia is a little bit different though. What we've been operating under to this point is once a buyer and an agent begin to have substantive discussions, once that client is asking for advice and opinion and the agent's expertise, then we need to have an agency agreement so everybody's clear on what that relationship is. Now, being asked to sign that right when you first meet somebody or to see that very first house might seem a little weird because there is a compensation section in there, and a buyer might not be comfortable committing to a relationship with an agent that they've just met and hiring them to find them a house. But it's important to remember that agreement could just be for that one house or for the houses you're seeing on that one day. And then once the buyer and the agent get to know each other a little bit better, if they decide to work together, they can sign a longer term agreement. Regarding the compensation part, buyers have traditionally not expected to pay their agent out of their pocket. Traditionally, the listing firm would share whatever fee they had earned with the firm that represented the buyer. That may not always be the case anymore, and buyers signing this agreement might have a little bit of trepidation about committing to a fee that will run into thousands of dollars. The important thing to remember is there are different ways the buyer can actually get that fee paid. It can be part of their own closing costs, or if they can't afford that, they can ask the seller to make a concession that can be negotiated within the contract that will give them the funds at closing to pay their agent. So the thinking behind that is, from the buyer's perspective, hey, the seller traditionally had paid a higher commission, enough that the listing firm was able to share if another firm sold the house before the listing firm did. So the buyer asking the seller for a little help with their closing costs is not too unusual. So if you're a regular watcher, you know that typically I will try a different coffee, usually a local one, during each episode. Moving forward, we're going to expand that a bit and try foods, pastries, ice creams, lunches from some of our favorite local places here in the central Shenandoah Valley, and try to give them a little boost and help introduce you all to some of our favorite spots. For our first food choice, we were at Cinnamon Bear, and I tried one of my favorites there, which is the gluten-free spicy chicken and basil wrap. It's absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend it. While I was there, I got to meet Jason, the owner, and learn a little bit more about the Cinnamon Bear. So Jason, for somebody that hasn't visited here before, what are the top few things you'd like them to know about the Cinnamon Bear?
We've been around for quite some time, and we definitely, during the pandemic, have made adjustments to what we used to be and started making our own bagels and doing things in-house a little bit more, and it's helped us to grow as a local hotspot.
What's something about your menu that would surprise people, even your regulars?
We marinate our own pork, we marinate our own chicken. We've had help from people around the world to help develop those recipes, and we bring it here to Harrisonburg.
Fantastic. Thanks again for letting us stop by today.
All right, thanks very much. Nice talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks for watching today. If you've got a real estate question for me or a local food place that you'd like me to try here on our segment, please send that to me at questions@klinemay.com. See you next time.
What if you could take advantage of lower mortgage rates without refinancing? With DuPont Community Credit Union's new Rate Drop Mortgage, you can. DCCU's Rate Drop Mortgage lets you lower your rate every 12 months if rates drop. Just pay a processing fee per rate adjustment. No refinancing or new closing costs required. Enjoy flexible home financing with DCCU's Rate Drop Mortgage. Visit mydccu.com or talk to a mortgage advisor today to get started.
What am I supposed to do with my hands? Oh my gosh. Can I read it one more time? Welcome to the Kline Realty Showcase. I'm Lindsay Shaver with Mountain Valley Homes team. If you see a home you like, call one of our offices. I forgot the last line. I don't remember it at all. It just left me, I'm sorry. Thanks to our sponsors. Enjoy the show. Oh my gosh. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks again to our sponsors. See you next week.